Welcome to Scoop Order. Very exciting news about Florida State and the Big Ten. Obviously, you guys know my old lady Kim went to Florida State, so them joining the Big Ten is going to be huge news for us. We're very excited about that. Going to break down all of that that's going on. Recruiting visits are happening this weekend. We're going to go through all that. We're going to take your questions as well. If you guys have questions, if you pay it forward with a super chat, we will answer them, get to them immediately. And it's going to be a great show. So we appreciate you guys as always. If you guys enjoy this content, please click like. Those are huge for this channel. If you guys would like to subscribe to the channel, the subscriptions are huge for us. Again, you guys referring people to the channel is awesome. Letting people know that are just general college football fans is awesome. We have a ton of generalists. They're not huge Ohio State fans, but they love just good football knowledge, film breakdowns. We're gonna do all that. We're gonna do some really cool stuff on BuckeyeScoop.com. If you guys are not members of BuckeyeScoop.com, I'm just telling you, consider joining the concierge membership on BuckeyeScoop.com. Is as good as it gets in college football. We break down a lot of inside information. It's a great community. It's an incredible community. Again, I shout out to my guy Devin, who you guys know is Ohio 7715, Tallahassee, and prayers to my people in Tallahassee. Terrible windstorms, tornadoes. Devin actually took a member of BuckeyeScoop.com and this podcast ice and food when the power went out. Again, this was a terrible windstorm over the last night, and this shows you the power of the Buckeye Scoop family. That Devin, with a chainsaw, was sawing trees up in the middle of the highway and drove to a member of our community's house to bring them ice to save their food. So again, this is not some small measure. So very, very big kudos to you, Devin. I appreciate you, brother. You are a person who is a shining star in this community. You, Akeem, Kim, Doreen are wrenches, so we appreciate all that you do. As always, I just want to get that all the way early because, again, I've been living this saga in real time on my text stream, and what Devin did was supernatural, and I appreciate you so much, my man. And again, if you guys appreciate the show, leave us a like, and also give some love to Devin, man. 'Cause again, that's incredible. And I told people, I'm like, look, I know that we say it's a family, but it really is a family. Because when it goes down, a guy like Devin is ready to step up to the plate and do something amazing. So I appreciate all of that. We're going to get to Florida State right now. Nevada, obviously Devin did incredible work today. So shout out to Devin. But Florida it's interesting because pre-show yesterday or late last night, we were talking about what we could do pre-show unless something else popped. We talked Florida State expansion, so it's interesting that everything that went down today is in Tallahassee. Florida State is potentially going to be joining the Big Ten. What are your thoughts on what Devin did, and along with what Florida State will bring to the Big Ten?
Well, yeah, shout out to Devin. That's just amazing. This podcast and the website's a lot more than just a website. It's a true community, and it's when people are in need, people step up. And Devin's just one of those guys. He's just a guy with a huge heart, and just an amazing person for him to do that. So kudos to Devin, and just really that was really heartwarming when I heard that story. Now for Florida State, the latest that I've gotten is that they have come to terms with the ACC on the terms of their separation from the ACC, their separation from the grant of rights, which will make them, and I believe, while I don't have this 100%, I do have it on Florida State. I believe Clemson as well will both become free agents, as it were, in the marketplace. And Florida State's next move, the Big Ten is very cautious about a contractual term known as tortious interference. They don't want to be interfering with anybody else who's under a contractual obligation, like Florida State is currently with the ACC. But once they are approved for for their departure from the ACC as part of this agreement, they'll be heading to the Big Ten. So I believe this will be announced shortly. I believe that this is imminent breaking news, and Florida State to the Big Ten gonna happen. What's interesting is you might ask yourself, if you're kind of playing the four-dimensional chess, you might go, well, will the Big Ten bring in Florida State by themselves? They've now been looking to try to bring teams in pairs. They did that obviously with USC and UCLA. They did that with Oregon and with Washington. Will they be looking for somebody to pair up with Florida State, and I don't have the answer to that question. There's another site. There was a rumor kind of going around the internet right now that Stanford has offered to come into the Big Ten at a permanently depressed, lower than market, whatever you want to call it, rate in order to be part of the Big Ten. That would be a second team. I have not been able to confirm that. So I know that's out there. I know people are talking about that, but I have not been able to confirm that. The information that I have at this point in time is that they bring in Florida State as a solo member while looking to pair them up with somebody, whether it be a North Carolina, whether it be a UVA, whether it be a Notre Dame, whoever it might be, moving forward. But Florida State to the Big Ten, I believe is imminent, and I believe an announcement is imminent, and a huge step forward for the Big Ten. An entree into Florida. One of the best brands that are left out there right now. So huge breaking news here tonight on Buckeye Scoop.
Yeah, I think that getting into Florida is going to be huge. I think that what Florida State would bring to the brand would be amazing. I get it. We have a ton of Florida Buckeyes, a lot of people in Georgia that are Buckeyes. I think getting into that Florida landscape, because you have to understand, like when you add Florida State to the Big Ten, when Ohio State's playing a road game there, a lot of these superstar commits are going to be being targeted by Florida State, and they're going to be, if Florida State is playing versus, if Florida State is playing Ohio State in a regular season game, that'll be the game of the year in all of college football. And guess what's going to happen? All of the best recruits in the country are going to come to Florida State, come to Tallahassee if it's a home game in northern Florida, and they're going to see Ohio State whoop on Florida State. So again, it's going to be, I think it'll be a net negative for Florida State when they see Ohio State run it up on them. But I think it's going to be it'll be one of those deals where we always wonder. There's these natural kind of selections that go on as the conferences start to disintegrate between the ACC. The ACC is one where, again, Nevada and I, we've talked, for hours about gaming this out, who's going to go where. SEC, it seems like it's Clemson. It seems like it's Miami. Big Ten, it seems like it's Duke. Seems like North Carolina. Seems like Florida State. Again, you talk about the academic requirements and how they've upped the ante to get into the higher echelon academic conference, which is the Big Ten. So I think it's going to be fascinating to watch. I think it's going to be great for Ohio State fans. Again, I think that the way college football is trending has never been better than it is for Ohio State football. Because again, you're going to see the NIL stuff has been excellent. Again, we're going to get into there's a big NIL dinner in Miami where a lot of the big NIL dinners took J.J. Smith and Colonel Tate out. I think that between getting a little bit more Southern exposure with Florida State, with Duke, with North Carolina, between both football and basketball. Again, imagine, I know that this is, kind of forecasting, but North Carolina and Duke coming to the Schottenstein Center to play Ohio State. Those are critical tickets. Those will be big-time games. I'm excited for it. Those are games that I sit down and watch. I'm not a basketball fan at all, but I think it'll be fun to see. But I think that, as we get into Florida State in football, it'll be good. And again, Duke has been on the come up. North Carolina is very mercurial, where if they have Mitch Trubisky or Drake May, they're potent. If they don't, then they're not very good. But Carolina has had some incredibly talented players come through their program in the last 20 years, like Julius Peppers, a lot of these guys that have been drafted. Ryan Sims was like the top, I think he's like the 5th or 6th overall pick by the Chiefs as a defensive tackle. Like Carolina is a very sneaky team in terms of the level of talent that they've put into the league, into the National Football League. Now, most people don't consider them a powerhouse because they don't collectively put it together as a program, but they've had some very, very good players. So again, I'm very excited for that. Nevada, as expansion continues to, I don't want to say unwind, but like these conferences, like you kind of feel it. Again, a guy like you who's got connections that are in the highest levels of college football, you can kind of feel when these conferences are starting to uh, evaporate, I guess you could say. Again, we felt it with the Pac-12. Again, you had USC and UCLA to the Big Ten before anybody at all. I mean, you guys can check the resume, check the timestamps of when Nevada was saying this is going to happen, and people said, "Oh, you're crazy, you're nuts," and then within 3 years, and again, this all this stuff happens in a very slow manner, and then all of a sudden it's like a big avalanche where you get two teams that jump in, and then also Washington, Oregon went in, and away we go. They're all in the Big Ten. Do you feel like this is coming with the ACC, with Clemson, with Florida State, with Duke, with North Carolina? What are your thoughts on that, and where do you think the biggest players end up?
Well, I've been saying I think the ACC is done, and I think the ACC is obviously they're aware of it, so it's not like Phillips and the people at the ACC are unaware that they're in peril, and what they're kind of their last gasp type of thing that they're trying to do right now is they're trying like heck to hold on to UNC, and what they're pitching to UNC is that UNC has no natural place to go to that would keep them together with NC State and Duke. And while people say, "Well, who cares?" Whatever. Well, it matters a lot to the people there. Those are traditional rivals, and I'm not sure the SEC would take NC State and Duke along with UNC, and I'm not sure the Big Ten would do it either. So they're making a big pitch to try to stay in the ACC, and I think that's their last chance to do that would be to make some sort of deal where those guys stayed in there. Maybe UNC got an increased piece of the pie. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out because you've literally got an organization that's fighting for its own survival right now in real time. But in the meantime, the Big Ten has so much more to offer these teams, financially and otherwise. The current and present day financial future is much better in the Big Ten. The future one is much better in the Big Ten, as well as your path to the playoff, your involvement in having a voice in the formation of what college football is going to look like over the next 25, 30 years. These things are all important to schools, as well as the academic reputation, they being a research one institution, they having access to the research consortium that's in the big. These are all very, very important considerations for these schools. But with the ACC, it's tough. I mean, you've got so many different elements. You've got the north-south thing kind of going on. When North Carolina is kind of right there on the cusp. They're kind of the Mason-Dixon line, where part of the school has a strong allegiance to the South, and part of the allegiance, identifies themselves more with large state, statewide institutions like Ohio State, Michigan, Wisconsin, Indiana, Iowa. So I think that's probably the best theater is just watching what ACC does to try to survive. The Pac-12 tried to do it, and it just unwound quickly. Once SC went, it went. But Florida State's not USC. The USC to the ACC is North Carolina. They're the kind of the keystone. If they go, then obviously it's Katie bar there where everything's gone. But so they're going to fight like heck to try to keep them together. They're going to leverage the UNC and Duke relationships with them to try to keep them together. And but in the meantime, Big Ten's going to get ready to take Florida State and frankly anybody else that they'd want. I mean, Miami's not crazy to the Big Ten. Georgia Tech's not crazy to the Big Ten. Neither is UVA. But right now, the brand that they're focusing on is Florida State. They like the Seminoles brand. They like what it brings. It's non-dilutive to the other teams, and that's the one that's going to happen.
I agree. I think it's going to be again, once one jumps, it's going to be what is best for the good of the order for every program. And again, I think that that's something that there's we talk about these geographical rivalries, these long-standing rivalries, but at the end of the day, man, the Apple Cup got split in half between Washington and Washington State. Washington was the pretty girl at the dance, and Big Ten snatched them up. Washington State, not so much. They're left in the Pac-2 between them and Oregon State. So, again, it's one of those strange deals where it's kind of like the you go to the club in the nice city, the nice restaurant with the highest stuff, and like the pretty girls, hey, you guys can come in, but you have to leave your friends behind. That's what happened with Oregon. They left Oregon State behind. That's happened with Washington. They left Washington State behind, and it leaves people in a bind. But I think that when an athletic director, like if I'm an athletic director at one of these colleges, and they say, hey, Kirk, you can accept an invite to the Big Ten. If I was the athletic director for Washington or Oregon or whoever, or you could maybe see how it works out in the Pac-12. But it's like when you have these guys all talk. These guys are all like sorority sisters. They like to spread gossip. When I'm hearing that, hey, SC is out and heading to the Big Ten, and UCLA is out, and Washington is out. Like I'm jumping on that Big Ten train as fast as I can, and I think that it's going to be prolific because again, it's all about making sure that you're solvent, making sure that you've got the best TV contract possible, the best revenue share possible, and again, when the Big Ten renegotiates their TV rights, it's going to be crazy because like you look at how the value has expanded over the last 2 years. I mean, it's almost comical when you say, "Hey, this is our old package, but we've added, I don't know, the Los Angeles market with USC and UCLA. We've added Oregon, who's one of the sexiest teams in the country. We've added Washington, who was in the national championship game last year. So, what do you guys want to do now to renegotiate?" So, I think it's going to be fantastic. I love all of it, and again, I like it because I think that it'll eliminate these cake games, these cupcake games that we open up with, like Akron, Western Michigan, whoever, and we're going to see real teams. Like I said, and we're going to get down to an NFL schedule. It's going to be the Big Ten, the SEC, 50 teams, and it's going to be nothing but good on good. So, Nevada, before we go any further, do you have any further questions before we get into some super chats?
Yeah, I just want to make one point. If you look, to your point about media rights, right now the NBA, Time Warner or Warner Discovery or whatever we want to call it, is involved in a negotiation with the NBA, and the NBA, like it's not like the ratings in the NBA have been going crazy lately. They've been kind of trending slightly down, but their rights deal with Warner's going to go up like over $1.5 billion, and so you know it's crazy what's happening with these properties right now. Sports is kind of the last place that people will go to consume live television. Everything else is television, via VCR or what, not VCR, but uh, recording.
Yep. Yeah, DVR.
The DVR. Everybody who records, what they're doing and what they're watching right now, but you don't record live sports. You want your sports consumed live. You want the thrill of. You don't want to do it. If anybody's ever recorded a game, knows you've got to go on an immediate media blackout because everything. Your phone will blow up, and your friends will call you and tell you about the game, or your kids, or your neighbor, or anybody that you look at the car wash, or anything like that. So the only way to consume sports is live, and that's the advertisers know that. So the NBA is set for a huge rate increase on a property that's not great. Well, where does that put the Big Ten? I mean, the Big Ten is just added USC, UCLA, Oregon, Washington, alongside Ohio State, which Ohio State is the preeminent brand in college football right now. There's nobody bigger. Alabama's not bigger. Georgia's not bigger. Alabama may be better on the field as they were under Saban, but they're not a bigger brand than Ohio State. I mean, Ohio State they are the New York Yankees. They are the Dallas Cowboys. And, for the Big Ten, man, their media rights are only going to become more valuable. They're not going to become less valuable. And the fact that the Big Ten is broadcasting in all three time zones and going to be going from noon to midnight, crazy good opportunity for the Big Ten, and crazy good opportunity for people to join up schools like Florida State.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be you want to jump in, to get some of those trimmings, and again, that's why we took Rutgers, who is obviously a terrible program, a program that's never been above a mid tier. At their peak with Greg Schiano, they peaked at like a number 2 overall team in the country, but they've never been back to that level. That was a very much of an anomaly type season. But you get Los Angeles, you get SC. Again, I talk about SC. SC is a sleeping powerhouse. If Lincoln Riley could get defense going out there. I mean, the recruiting base you get in Southern California, and even if not, I'm just talking about Southern California. Like you talk about, you go to Florida, Georgia, you bring a kid out to Los Angeles, take him on an official visit there. Like it's like the killing fields. So again, that's a sleeping giant. I think UCLA, to a lesser extent, is a sleeping giant. I think SC is a lot sexier than UCLA is right now from a just from a pure college football standpoint. Again, UCLA's been down for a long time, since really Cade McDowell in '99. But when you talk about SC, they've got Reggie Bush, they've got Lendell, they've got Carson Palmer, they've got Mark Sanchez, they've got a lot of really big time first round quarterbacks. So I think it's a lot easier to build that thing back up. Obviously, Caleb Williams just went one overall in the draft, so there's a lot to go with there. But I think that with the Big Ten meteorites, it's going to be fascinating to see how the things go. So we're getting some super chats right now. This is one of the most poignant questions in Ohio State history, in the history of the show. Nevada, Paul Lewis, who is a Scoop Hall of Famer, without a doubt, does 100. So I appreciate you, Paul. Can't wait to see you in a couple weeks for dinner. Saying, hi, gents. Nevada, I'm going to let you go first. Who has the worst losses, Jim Tressel or Urban Meyer?
The worst losses, Jim Tressel or Urban Meyer? Well, no. I'm going to say for me personally, the worst loss was John Cooper, 1998 versus Michigan State. So that was the worst loss in my lifetime. For Woody, it was the '70s. It was the Rose Bowl against UCLA. For Tressel, the back-to-back national championship games that you might recall, the 06 and 07, the debacle in the desert and the beating in the Bayou, those, and then Urban Meyer, obviously Michigan State. That one. I'll never quite understand how we lost to Michigan, and I'm talking about the one in the shoe where they had the third string quarterback, and we forgot that we had Ezekiel Elliott on the roster. I know he'd been either hurt or sick the week before, and I don't know what happened. But here's the bottom line: every coach has those days. Every coach, and we just went through Woody, Cooper. We could find Earl Bruce. I mean, Saban. Every coach has those days, and nobody's going to run the table. And unfortunately, with football, a lot of times people are determined by their worst day, their worst defeats, their most disappointing moments. But that's the great thing about being a fan. That's the great thing about being an Ohio State fan. But I just want to throw out this one point, though. Think about all the stuff that I just talked about, and then think about how you feel now that it's part of an expanded playoff. With an expanded playoff, do those losses, does those devastating losses in '98 to Michigan State, or the one in 2015 to Michigan State, or do they hurt as much? And the bottom line is they don't, because they don't disqualify you from participation. I think the Oregon game this year, when we play Oregon this year in Austin, it's going to be a great game. It's going to be enjoyable. It's going to be for seeding. It's going to be fantastic thing. But if we lose, it's not the end of days. It's not before. If you lost that game, there was a very real chance that was literally the end of your season. Like in terms of the national championship, like the season's over. Let's talk about other things, and maybe you have a 1% chance, but you're pretty much, your hope is done. Now that's not the case. So it totally changes the way you watch the games as a fan. So will the losses hurt as much? I don't know, but it's going to be really interesting to see. And I'm looking forward to watching the games and being able to actually maybe eat nachos or something during the game and not feel like I'm going to throw up every minute, worrying that if we lose, our season's over and another season's gone, and I'm going to line up on the ledge. But no, I'm excited about it. But everybody's had some bad losses, and even Burt Carton. Burt Carton was part of two of my list. You're on it.
Yeah, I mean it's brutal. Again, I've lived that life. It sucks. I mean, again, I lost 2 national championship games. We lost to Iowa in '04. Got ran out of the room. It was 31-7, just absolute massacre. But I think Trust probably has worse losses because when you lose the national championship when you're so close, especially when you're favored. We were favored in '06. We weren't favored in '07. That stings. Now Urban got ran out of the gym versus Clemson in 16. He got obviously the Purdue game was a debacle in 18. The Iowa game was a debacle in 17. So again, you go through kind of like the whole algorithm, and again, coaches suffer bad losses, and again, some of them make no sense. Like nobody in the world would have predicted on November 4th of 2017 that Iowa would just destroy us because nothing made sense that day. They made T.J. Hawkinson and George Fant look like the two greatest tight ends in the history of football. But I don't know. I mean, like Trust, who I love like a father. When you lose a national championship, it's just kind of like you don't. Urban lost games, but he never lost a national championship. So it's kind of like the Jordan versus LeBron deal, where people will say, "Well, how many finals did Jordan lose?" Well, none. Because he got knocked out, his first few years in the league by the Pistons or the Celtics, or he lost in the 1 year to the Magic when he came back out of retirement. Versus LeBron, who's been to the finals more than Jordan. He doesn't have as many rings as Jordan, but he carried bad teams to the finals like 8 times, and he got ran out of the gym by San Antonio and by Dallas and some of these other teams. So I don't know. I mean, I think that Trust probably had worse losses because when you lose national championships, you're just so close and it stings. But Urban had some brain farts. And so is Ryan Day. And again, if you're a coach at Ohio State, there's going to be days where you get your brains beaten. And Ryan's had those days too. So I'd probably say Trust, just to give you a fair answer, just because we lost to Florida and LSU in the championship game, but. It's close. Urban had some faux pas too. So Andre Duke, thank you for the deuce. Thanks for posting the interview. Yeah, we put Andre Duke's interview on our YouTube channel and also on our podcast stream. So if you guys are interested in listening to a really good interview by Andre and his associate, go ahead and hit us up on Apple Podcasts. Also hit us up on YouTube. And you'll see the entire interview. But we're trying to grow his channel, so if you guys would like to help him out, subscribe to his channel. Andre Duke, search for it on YouTube. You'll find it. And click the subscribe button. It'll be huge for you. Nevada, this recruiting weekend is going to be kind of wild. We've got Isaiah West. We've got Jackson Lloyd, who's actually out of California, out of Carmel, California. We've got Andrew Stargell, who's out of Georgia, who's a 3-star tackle. We have your guy, Nathaniel Owosu Boateng, who is out of IMG, who is obviously related to Jock out of Cleveland, JOK. Then we have Jaden Mangum, who is from Michigan, 6'2", 185 pound safety from Michigan State. Your thoughts on this weekend? Because this is kind of an underrated weekend because there isn't that massive, huge 5-star recruit coming in. But there's some very solid depth pieces. There's some guys that like Nathaniel Owosu Boateng, who could be a potential 5-star superstar type guy. But what are your thoughts on this weekend? Because again, with Jaden Mangum, I think that it's great that he's visiting. He's a Michigan State kid, but like, do we really need him? Do we really need to pay him? What is his true role going to be when you have Caleb Downs, Lathan Ransom, Malik Hartford? Would he be good with being a reserve? Which most of these guys that hit the portal, they want to be guaranteed a starting spot. But what are your thoughts on this recruiting weekend?
Well, I'll touch on something that you had mentioned earlier, and I don't know if we have a picture or whatever we have, but this is kind of one of those weekends where you're kind of leaning on the collectives, and it's like we've talked about the foundation and the work that they've done. This is a weekend when you're going to be going to the foundations and asking them, hey, help step up, help bring some of these guys into the fold. And that's like a new element of recruiting right now. It's now it's kind of baked into the cake that if you don't have a top flight collective like the foundation that you can go to, that you can depend on to deliver and stuff like that, these weekends don't happen. these weekends, they don't happen at all, let alone you don't have success when you're going to them. So I just really wanted to take the time to thank those guys for the great work that they're doing, and the efforts they're putting on behalf of Ohio State, because as much as it may be a change for people like myself, getting used to NIL and getting used to having it as part of the recruiting landscape. It's critical and it's vital that they do it, and those guys are working hard in terms of doing it. They're down there in Florida right now, making stuff happen. But I didn't want to talk about the weekend without at least out recognizing those guys, because those guys are doing excellent work.
Yeah, we've got a bunch of members of the foundation are down in South Florida. They're having dinner with Carnell Tate and with JJ Smith, and some other potential people that are potentially in the fold. So again, shout out to the foundation for getting this stuff together, helping generate some buzz around our young kids, especially our high school prospects. So again, you see Carnell right at the forefront. Carnell's looking very huge at this point. He's been in the gym. You can obviously tell. You see JJ at the back of the table. You see Brian Hartline is there as well. So again, I always tell people, I'm like, look, everybody that's not an NIL fan, they want the old timey football, the old, hey, the kids get their stipend check and whatever. I'm like, look, the way we're doing NIL with the foundation is so impressive, so incredible. And Forza Bucks, who's a part of our site. We have a lot of members of the foundation that are part of our site. A lot of members of 1870 that are part of our site. But the foundation has become the premier collective by far. And we're going to interview their leadership pretty quick here. They requested an interview with us, and we'll do that. So if you have questions, throw that in the chat. But I applaud them, because again, everybody loves Ohio State to be great. Everybody wants Ohio State to be great. But the foundation makes Ohio State great by facilitating their life, everything that they need to do to make their lives more comfortable. Again, between Carnell, between Brandon Ennis, between JJ Smith, the South Florida thing is real, especially when it comes to skill players. So I'm very excited about these guys being able to connect with guys like Carnell, guys like Brian Hartline, guys like JJ Smith, especially, again, as you guys know that are recruit heads, Jamie French, Vernell Brown, from the same area, with the same 7-on-7 team, with South Florida Express, with Brett Getz and the crew. So these guys putting in work is huge for us. And again, we appreciate all that they do for taking care of these guys. Nevada, we're in like the second week. Again, a lot of these guys get back on either Sunday or midweek next week. What are your thoughts of the team going forward? Because again, a lot of these guys are like Sonny Sal's in the Dominican Republic, Carson Hinsman's at Universal Studios. I think it's great. I think it's neat. I think that these guys get a little bit of cash so they can take their grill out and have a little trip before the grind really starts. But what are you looking forward to within a week when the entire team is back together and they start working through summer conditioning?
Well, I'm looking forward to, we had talked about, the nugget that we'd put out on Buckeye Scoop about Chip Kelly and the two-back offense, and how he plans to utilize that, how he plans to kind of unveil that. It was really kind of surprising to me how much time the Chip has spent on this in the offseason, going to guys like Sean Payton, Bill Snyder, Gus Malzahn, other guys that are kind of practitioners of the two-back offense. I think it's a really interesting thing. I think it's a really interesting, wrinkle that I'm going to be watching for how they're doing it, because he's asking the running backs to do different things. When they brought in Quinshon, my initial thought was, hey, 17-game season, 16-game season, you really need to kind of have those guys, spell each other off and split the carries and do the things. And won't that be great? But Chip has kind of been cooking it up where he wants to use the two-back set more, and he wants to try to set it up to kind of create some difficulties. And we had Bruce Wiseman kind of go through, lay out what are the reasons for the two-back set, and he pointed out stuff that I hadn't really thought about. This is probably intuitive to you as being the football savant, but he was talking about how you have an additional lead blocker or blockers, how the defense doesn't really see this this formation all that much. So sometimes it creates confusion. Sometimes it can cause them to walk the safety into the box, which creates a mismatch on the outside. You have multiple receiving threats out of the backfield. I mean, it was just a lot of little nuance, but I think Chip wants to get his best players on the field. And we've talked about some of the deficiencies that we have in the tight end room. We're a little thin there. We don't really have, we're waiting for Jelani Thurman to, bust out forward. G. Scott, good player, but he's not Quinshon Judkins. He's not Trey Henderson. And I think, how do you combat that? How do you deal with that? Well, a 2-back, 3-wide receiver set would be really interesting to see how teams respond to that and how you defend that when you have 2 elite backs, 3 elite wide receivers, and a trigger man like Will Howard back there. I just think that's going to be just fascinating to watch. So it's one of the big things that I'm going to be keeping an eye on. They've asked these guys to really work on their receiving because he wants to use them as multiple receiving threats. And that's just kind of music to my ears as a guy that loves those swing passes out to the backside of the backfield. I think they're so exceedingly difficult to defend. But looking forward to those Chip Kelly wrinkles, see what he does with his offense. And that's really one of the things I'm looking forward to the most.
I totally agree. I think that with Chip and what he does and what he did with, again, he's had, LaMichael James, he's had, Black Mamba as his guys at Oregon. That was the year they had Eric Blunt. I mean, he had 3 legit tailbacks. He likes to spell guys. He's a big picture thinker. Again, a lot of people, and I was one of them, when I saw Chip Kelly went to the Eagles, I drafted DeMarco Murray in every fantasy league I could get my hands on him in. First round pick, NFL Offensive Player of the Year, goes to Philly, and I'm thinking he's gonna crush it in Chip Kelly's offense. And Chip was very much a democracy in the backfield. He had DeMarco, he had Ryan Matthews, who was a first round pick for the Chargers. He also had Darren Sproles. So I mean, he likes to spread it out a little bit. Again, in the league, in the National Football League, you've got a long season. You have 17 games now. He had 16 when he was there. And then you've got the playoffs. You've got the Super Bowl. I mean, it's a long season. So you have to kind of spread it out a little bit. I think that what his mindset will do will benefit Ohio State because, again, Ryan Day's never coached a season this long outside of being a position coach. I think that the NFL experience that those guys accumulated when they were in Philly and also in San Francisco for that 1 year will be huge because, again, you're playing 17 games plus playoffs. So it's going to be, you're going to play 12 plus the Big Ten, potentially 17 total games, but you also have weeks of practice, bye weeks. It's a long, long season. I think that what they're doing will be outstanding between Quinshon, between Trey. I think the thing that'll be fascinating to me, it's not just the timeshare between the two, because I think it'll be pretty even. I think it'll probably be maybe a 65-45 type of split, like a 55-45ish type split with Trey being the lead guy. But where does James Peoples go? Do they give him something to whet his appetite? Because in a year, you're going to be looking at this team, you're going to say, well, Quinshon and Trey both gone to the league. And then you're going to have, James Peoples there with, the running backs, Sam Williams-Dixon, whoever we bring in, and if there's any portal candidates. So, again, I think it's going to be fascinating to see how they manage these reps. I think Carlos Lockland's got a very enviable job where you've got 2 legit running backs, and you got to figure out how to distribute the carries. But, again, I'm excited for what Ryan can do. I'm excited for what Chip can do. Especially the thing that makes us excited for Trey and Quinshon is Will Howard, because all of a sudden you have a quarterback who can pull the ball on a read option. Again, something that Chip Kelly bemoaned was in the National Football League when you've got a quarterback who's making 15, 20 million like Sam Bradford. You can't run him too many times because he'll get hurt. But when you've got Will, you've got Devin. I mean, we have 5 quarterbacks, and they're all staying. None of them hit the portal. So that is Ryan's dream scenarios, that when you look up that depth chart and you're like, well, I brought in Will Howard for a fortune on NIL money. We paid him almost $1 million. Then I've got Devin Brown right behind him, a kid that could have gone elsewhere, stayed. Then I've got Julian staying in that third spot. Then I've got Lincoln Keno. So I got Aaron Nolan. like he can get after a little bit with these quarterbacks. So I'm excited for that as always. We got another super chat. Roger Smith, thank you for the new scoop onesies for our future little Buckeyes, Nevada OH. You know, I mean, we've got a lot of kids being born. I've got another little monster coming in August. So we're gonna do a scoop drop. Again, what you guys want, throw that in the store. If you guys want hoodies, polos, t-shirts, put the color, put the type of outfit, put the brand. So if you want a black Under Armour hoodie, put that in there. If you want a red Under Armour hoodie, again, we can't guarantee that it's all going to be in the drop, but we have to make some decisions fairly quick here to get stuff out for Father's Day. So just let me know, and we will get that done. Nevada, with Chip Kelly, he's been out on the road. He's been evaluating a lot of quarterbacks. What does he bring to this program? Because I think that he's the biggest hire, obviously, in Ryan Day's career, with alleviating the role of play calling and the amount of work that Ryan had to put in the offensive staff room. Now he's got a guy that he trusts more than probably any coach in the history of football. What does that bring to Ryan Day's peace of mind? What does it bring to our quarterback right here? Because again, something that Chip's probably not used to is he has to work like a position coach now, where he's on the road every day. He's recruiting quarterbacks. He's watching them throw. He's offering them or not offering them based on their workouts. But what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think the idea that it's not just what Chip does, and it's not just the impact of Chip on the offense or Chip's impact on the running backs or the block the blocking on the outside, the blocking schemes on the inside, the encouragement of the wide receiver and tight ends to block. It goes beyond that. It goes to this helps Ryan Day become a more complete coach, and that'll manifest itself when we see more. I'll say less nonsensical down and distance decisions or clock management decisions or administrative decisions. It's taking such a huge load off of Ryan Day so Ryan Day can think clearly. So when Ryan Day's making a recommendation, when he's going to Chip Kelly and they're talking about a play call in a critical spot, that Ryan can do it with a clear mind, and he can do it with a guy that's not always having to think 3 plays ahead. Because anybody who's been a play caller knows that you're not just calling the one play. You're calling the one play to set up the next play, to potentially set up the next play, and everything's it's a chess match out there. And so for Ryan Day to not have to worry about that, he can have Chip Kelly, who's just a master play caller, calling plays from up in the box, calling down to Ryan Day. Ryan's just going to be able to really think these things through. And when he makes input, I think his input's going to be just so much more refined and better. That's going to be the impact, on for the Ohio State team. That's the thing that I'm most excited about. But I want to go back to the thing about the 2-back offense, and I want to ask you a question. What do you like about the 2-back offense? I mean, you've played the game. I mean, if you were blocking and you had Quinshawn and Trey and Will Howard in the backfield, how would that make you feel as an offensive lineman? What type of challenges does that present for the defenses from your perspective?
Well, I think that when you have 2 guys that are legit guys, it makes your life way easier because, again, I think great running backs make average offensive lines look amazing. And again, I played on good lines, average lines, whatever. But when we had bad running backs, and again, I played with some bad running backs, some guys that you guys can look them up from 04. Again, my definition of a bad running back is they never played in the NFL, never got signed by anybody, might have been like a rookie free agent preseason guy, but that's it. They never made an NFL roster. So that's a bad running back take for Ohio State. When you have those types of guys, life's way harder because they don't miss tackles. They're not tough. They're not good. And again, like I'm not trying to go in on guys, but there's a certain level where, it's like if you're a point guard and you have a shooting guard and you pass him the ball and he misses every 3-pointer, in general, that's not great. So when you block a play in a very, very, dominant position, and they can't hit the hole, they can't make the read, they can't break a tackle, they can't gain yardage, they fumble, whatever. That isn't advantageous for to go to the order. So with a guy like with Quinchon and Trey, it would be like a dream. It was a lot like in '06 when we had the best duo I ever had when I had Beanie and Pitt in the same backfield together. Antonio Pittman, Chris Beanie Wells. That was different. Beanie was the number one player in the country, 5-star running back, built like an absolute horse, freight train. And Pitt was a guy that was a scrappy guy. He was a third round pick by the Rams. By the Saints. Got cut in preseason because he had poor coaching. But between Pitt and Beanie, man, life was really good because those guys, if there was a crease, if there was a cut, those guys hit it. They ran hard, especially Pitt. Pitt was a very tough kid. But when you have guys that are not great, and again, like some of our running backs we've played the last few years have not been great. And again, that's why when Tony Alford when he left for Michigan, it was a victory for Ohio State. And again, Ryan Day is almost too nice of a guy. He is sinister. He didn't fire Tony. Now Tony, he got traded to stay. He brought Quinshon Judkins in. But, what he was doing in the background in terms of how poor he was recruiting, how lazy he was in game planning from people I talked to inside the Woody Hayes. It was rough. It was bad. So when he finally left and went to Michigan, it didn't surprise me at all that a guy would stab Ryan in the back that hard, stab Trey Henderson in the back that hard, stab, all the guys he recruited, James Peoples in the back that hard. It just was part of Tony Alford's character, which I think is exceptionally poor. So, when you look at what's going on, I think that Carlos Lachlan getting a hold of Travion and getting a hold of Quinshon, it's going to be amazing for Ohio State. Because again, this is the longest season in Ohio State history. Starting this year is potentially the longest season in Ohio State history. So when you have two backs that are both first-team All-American caliber type guys, and then you have James Peoples as your third guy, I think life's good. Because again, I'm telling you, you could have the greatest line in the world. You have the best line in the NFL and college football. If your backs stink, they won't see the holes. They won't make the cuts. They won't have the speed. They won't have the anger, the aggression, the power. Because running angry, running hard isn't just some natural thing. Like you have to be kind of supernatural to do that. Like guys like Maurice Clarett did that. Guys like Antonio Pittman did that. Beanie Wells did that. But I watched some of these guys run, and they're as soft as butter, soft as Charmin. And so when there's times to go get those extra yards, they turn it down. They're scared to death. And I played with guys that were like that. So I don't think Quinshon and Trey are like that, so they're going to be a big benefit for Ohio State. So
now question. Let me just ask you one more part of that. How often did you guys have Pittman and Beanie in the backfield at the same time?
Very rare. I mean, I honestly can't think of a single instance where we did it. I think that there was a time going into '06 where we talked about doing it a lot, but I don't think we actually did it. In '06, I don't know if I played a single snap where we had them both in the backfield at the same time. It was more of a rotational thing where one played one series, one played the other series, one played the first. Pitt in '06, Pitt was more of the bell cow. He got obviously many more carries than Beanie, much older than Beanie. Beanie was a freshman. I don't remember any times where they were in the backfield at the same time because we were kind of moving towards the spread. We weren't a big fullback team. We were somewhat, but not like we were in '05, '04. We were kind of evolving more into that '06 spread with Troy winning the Heisman. So honestly, you put a gun to my head. I don't think there's a single play where they were both on the field at the same time, but I could have missed it. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, I was just kind of curious because I know that Tressel would every now and then would unveil some interesting things. The Ted Ginn lined up at the wing, the famous play from the tight end kind of spot and stuff. But I didn't know if you guys ever utilized the two back set. That would have been an interesting two back set with Beanie and Pittman. You guys could have done some interesting things with that for sure.
Well, I think that you have to have guys that have different skill sets, and I think that Beanie and Pitt were both very much functional, straight ahead, running backs. They weren't receiving threats out of the backfield per se. Pittman was probably more so than Beanie. They weren't like, when you've got these classic guys that are 75 catches, not Kamara, not Christian McCaffrey, not those types of guys. And again, I'm not talking about that high level of talent. I'm talking about the skill set. So again, you guys can say, oh, Kirk, well, obviously Beanie's not Christian McCaffrey and Pitt's not Christian. But it's like, I'm talking about like, you've got backs that are these big workhorse type guys. Again, like Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry's a horse. He got to give him 20 to 25 carries a game, get in a rhythm. And then there's guys that are like, the guys that are the third down backs, the guys that are space guys like Reggie Bush, like Kamara, like McCaffrey, where you throw them the ball in the flat, you throw them tunnel screens, you give them the ball in space. And Beatty and Pitt really weren't those types of guys. So, and again, we haven't had many guys that are like that. I think Trey is maybe a little closer to that, but Trey's a horse. Trey wants the ball. Trey wants to get hit in the A gap. So it's going to be interesting to consider to see where these guys go. Because I think Quinshon's a lot closer to Kamara. Kamara is one of my favorite running backs of all time. Alvin Kamara from the New Orleans Saints, played at Bama, transferred to Tennessee. I think watching him play is fascinating. The way how hard he runs, how he carries really bad offenses. I mean, he stunk in fantasy 2 years ago. He was pretty good last year. But, Kamara is a different level cat with what he does on the field and how he's more of a gadget guy than a guy like Pitt or a guy like Beanie or a guy like maybe Quinshon. I think Trey's a guy that could be that. Again, something that we projected last year is that they got to throw the ball to Trey more. I know they don't like to throw it to him because we've got Emeka. Last year we had Emeka Marvin, Julian Fleming. We had all these great receivers. So I think you have to dump down to that running back a little bit more and let him get loose in the backfield because I think he can do something like that. You hand it to him on a little short, little out route, little screen. I think he can do some of that and be productive with that. I think it's something that Ryan's going to get better at. Donald and Karen Ross Beck, I think for the 20, appreciate you being Ultra members as well. Love you guys. Thank you guys for being on here each and every night. I'm excited for the 2 running back sets. It's going to drive defenses nuts and a lot of fun to watch. We're going to win the Natty in 2024 in Nevada OH. Yeah, I think that with the skill sets that Trey Henderson and Quinshon Judkins have, I think that it's perfect for a 2-back set because you have, you have guys that can catch the ball. Frankly, you have guys that can, you can put a guy in motion, flare him out, do an RPO where you either throw it to Quinshon or hand it to Trey, and that will be insanity for defenses. So I think with their skill set, the 2-back running back set is going to be devastating because most people, actually nobody in Ohio State, or actually I would say outside of like a Lendell Reggie deal, nobody's had a duo like these two. 2 first-team All-American candidates in the same backfield. Hasn't happened. And I'm really excited to see what these guys can do. If I was Ryan Day and Chip Kelly, I'd be just really, really ultra excited to see how people could defend 2 of your best weapons. Because at the end of the day, you have to get your best 11 on the field. Obviously, your 5 linemen. But what's your best position grouping offensively? Is it 3 receivers, a tight end, a running back? Is it 3 receivers, 2 running backs? There's a lot of different deals you could do. Is it two receivers, a tight end, 2 running backs? That'll be fascinating to watch. So Nevada, Donald says he's excited. Donald and Karen says they're excited for the 2 running back sets. Is it going to be drive defense nuts? What are your thoughts on that? Because again, I think what Chip could do with these 2 guys is something he's never been able to do because a lot of the guys he had at Oregon were kind of one-dimensional guys. They're speed guys, smaller guys, get them in space guys. He didn't have the true horses that could go between the tackles and run guys over like Trey and Quinshon can do. But what are your thoughts on that? I mean, how excited are you for the two running back sets?
I'm excited, and I think an obvious point, but I want to state it over again: the fact that you've got a horse for a running back in your quarterback back there with those 2 guys just kind of activates that whole thing because now when Will Howard is running and you're running the triple option or you're running the speed option one way and one of the guys is swinging out the other way, teams have got to respect him as a running threat. And when that just puts so much pressure on the defense. And then, as you mentioned, you've got two premier running backs. I mean, this is a Felix Jones, Darren McFadden, Lendale White, Reggie Bush type of setup. But we haven't seen it much. And the fact that we can remember the other prominent two-back, types of situations so fondly, even though they didn't play for Ohio State, shows you how rare it is. And that's kind of the rare era that we're in with Quinshon and Trey and Will Howard. Because I've always thought the key to the running game at Ohio State in modern times, since Urban Meyer came to Ohio State, I'll say that the Meyer era has been the threat of the quarterback running. And when you take that away, I think everything stagnates. And I think that's been the big mistake. I think Ryan Day, he liked the home run potential of Trey Henderson. He obviously likes the home run potential of the quarterback wide receiver type of situation. And I think he just went away from the quarterback run. And Chip Kelly is going to bring back the quarterback run as a important quiver in the or important arrow in the quiver of the Ohio State arsenal. And I think it's going to be the key to the running game. I think it's going to open up everything. I think it's going to make the offensive line look better. I think Quinshon and Trey's numbers are both going to be ridiculous this year. And seeing that in a legitimate two-back set with Will Howard back there, I can't wait. I'm so excited for the 2024 season. I can't wait. I wish the first game was tomorrow.
Oh, I got a great super chat from Pooh Beard. Pooh Beard, you bring the heat each and every day, no matter what is going on, forever and ever and ever. Nevada, do you know the reference here? Pooh Beard 12, who is one of the greatest posters, subscribers to BuckeyeScoop.com, super chatters in the world. He says, for the deuce, at least I say on our, H-O-U-R, like an hourglass mind. Nevada, what does that reference?
The famous Tony Alford direct message. Tony Alford direct messaging us unsolicited. Like, we're not direct messaging Tony Alford. We're not. I mean, we do have lives, and we're not going there. But for him to send us an unsolicited direct message with a misspelling in it is just so perfectly Alford, and that definitely was a high point. We've talked about, there's low points and there's mid points and there's high points. It doesn't get much better than when the current Michigan coach is sending stuff to show how smart he is and then misspelling words in there. Tony, you're the gift that keeps on giving, and don't ever change.
It's comical because, like, again, like, that isn't like some wild and crazy spelling. Like, I mean, that is just like, if you're impossibly dumb and you failed your way up the ladder and you fooled enough people to hire you because they need a guy like you to be their running backs coach, then congrats. But again, Ryan Day was on the right track. Because again, early December, man, the word was that they're firing Tony Alford. Early December, and then, Quinshon Judkins lands on his lap because of the foundation. Trey Henderson decides to come back, so okay, we'll retain him, but we're not going to extend him. We'll extend Keenan Bailey, who's worthless. We'll extend the janitor. We'll extend the people that wash the parking lot spots. But we're not going to send you, Tony, because you're just that bad. So your contract's going to dissolve at the end of the year. And instead, he decided to jump to Michigan, which again, whatever floats your boat, dude. I mean, again, Trey came back to play for you. Quinshon came to play for you. And you jump to the rival. So we'll see you at the end of November, and you'll be very sad. But again, you'll be very sad, along with being very, very dumb. HH Buckeyes, a 5. Thank you for the 5. Appreciate you, my friend. My thoughts: academics, TV, recruiting. FSU, Notre Dame, Georgia Tech, NBC, or UNC. Thoughts? Your thoughts on Nevada OH? So let's go through each one, Nevada, because I don't want you to burn your head up. Florida State, yes, obviously.
Yes.
Notre Dame, tricky, but Notre Dame is a grand slam. Like, Notre Dame's like buying the Yankees and adding them to your league. So obviously Notre Dame, yes.
Yeah, and I want to just make a point. Like, when people say oh, screw Notre Dame. I don't want them in. They can go pound. That's a silly take. Okay, guys, we want Notre Dame. We really want Notre Dame. They're a premier brand. I know they haven't won a championship since Lou Holtz was there and blah, blah, blah. I get all that. They're arrogant. They're annoying, but we want Notre Dame. This show's based upon a one of our basic tenets is honesty. Being honest, we want Notre Dame. That would be a huge get. That would be a great day. And if we didn't get them by some whatever they went somewhere else, that would be bad. Let's just call it what it is. So I think we're going to get Notre Dame. I think that day's coming, but that would be a great day. And yeah, they'd be welcomed with open arms.
Georgia Tech. That's an interesting one. Your thoughts on Georgia Tech?
And mixed feelings. I mean, mixed feelings. I respect them as an academic school. They're not a traditional football power, and I'm just looking at it. It's completely changed now. It's not about cable networks. It used to be about that when Rutgers would never come in under the current situation. Rutgers came in under a situation where they were trying to get into the New York. They wanted to go into the New York market and the New York cable market. And by Rutgers, they grabbed the New Jersey, New York cable markets that can get on those channels with the Big Ten network. That was the whole game plan right now. But think about right now how you're doing stuff. Right now, you're not beholden to your local cable channel anymore. You can stream, you can pick and choose and cherry pick what you want to have on your television, and so you're looking for brands. So is Georgia Tech a significant enough brand? Like them academically, I don't think they're additive as a brand, so I'm going to say no, but they are interesting because they are in Georgia. I get that, and that's the only reason I'd give them any consideration, but I'd go no.
Yeah, I don't think they're sexy enough as a program. BC, I'm in the same program. It's like they're great academics. The Boston market is intriguing, but they're so bad at football that I don't know if they'd make sense. Nevada, you're with me on Boston College.
Yeah, it's kind of same thing as Georgia, probably even lower than Georgia Tech in my particular view. For all the reasons you said, like the market, like O'Brien, like the school academically is terrific. Like him in other sports, but I mean, in terms of football, they're just, yeah, I mean, since Doug Flutie left, they really haven't been relevant in terms of football, and I don't think you can have irrelevant team. We've already got that with Rutgers. And again, I'm not trying to denigrate Rutgers, but that's just fact. And Rutgers kind of got in. They were at a moment in time, the door opened, and they were smart enough to jump through. But I don't think you can do that again with BC. I don't think it makes any sense.
Yeah, and UNC you think it's the absolute grand slam home run, like I do, correct?
Grand slam. I mean, that would be a great again, and that's a battle, man. That is one that's absolutely in play. Stay in the ACC, go to the SEC, come to the Big Ten. That'd be a battle, but they are an absolute plum, an absolute gem, and if we get them, great, and if we don't, that's not great for us because I think they're one of the great brands that are left not affiliated with conferences right now, and they would be they'd be a plum for sure.
I think Carolina's a top 10 brand in college just because of the basketball prestige. Football's been a roller coaster. They've had great players there, but I think that, there's a lot of prestige getting USC Chapel Hill. I think that if Carolina's coming to the Schottenstein Center, I think people want to go. I think that, again, they haven't been where they've been in the past. Obviously, they're not the threat. And again, it's puzzling to me that they're not a dominating force in college basketball year over year the way that a lot of these blue bloods are. But again, with the one and dones and NIL and whatever, like some of these guys are still navigating it. But Carolina is like a real brand. I mean, that's a brand that people wear. It's a brand that people rep because of Jordan. So they'd be fascinating to get them in the Big Ten. I would love it because, again, they've had players that are as good as any players in the history of the sport between Lawrence Taylor, Julius Peppers. They've had great quarterbacks the last few years in the college realm and drafted high. They haven't performed at the pro level, but it'll be interesting to see what those guys do.
But I mean, Carolina, think about Carolina. Carolina, you would recognize Carolina just from the colors. Like if you saw the color.
Carolina blue. I mean,
Carolina blue. I mean,
how many schools have their own color? You know.
yeah, exactly. I mean, that's when you're talking about branding and what it means, and you're exactly right. I mean, people have this positive affiliation with them because of Jordan and everything else going there, but
Yep.
you see that color, you know immediately what we're talking about.
Exactly. Well, Nevada, we can probably wrap this thing up. Any final thoughts as we get into the weekend?
No, just again, want to shout out Devin. Thank Buckeyes helping Buckeyes, people helping people. That's what the show's all about. And people talk about it, but then people put their money where their mouth is when somebody's really in need, and he goes out with a chainsaw and is chainsawing his way through, and him and his loyal raccoon are going there and delivering ice and food and doing stuff. Yeah, just amazing. Makes you proud to be part of the site. And just thank you, Devin, for being a great guy and for helping out.
Yeah, Devin, you are an absolute amazing human being. I'm trying to crop a photo of. So I get these text messages, and it's just like, Devin. So I'm just gonna throw this on the board real quick before we tap out of here, so you guys can go enjoy your Friday night. But this was a text in our group text. Again, I wanted to crop out the phone numbers so it wouldn't be pertinent. Devin is the man, and a thumbs up to Devin. Just saved my food. And again, Devin is Ohio 7715. One of our wrenches, a guy who is a salt of the earth human being, God fearing human being, devout human being. Again, a person who's, people talk about being Christians, and then this, like stuff like this goes down. So he delivered ice. He made it over 2 down power poles, snapped in half, and much debris. Which he brought a chainsaw to cut the poles out so he could get across the roads. No one else would have tried it. He is one cool but crazy, hard charging, no excuses, get her done, dude. So Devin, props to you, props to the Scoop family. Again, in this group chat, people are really going crazy saying this wouldn't happen with a Buckeye Scoop, but this doesn't happen with a guy like Devin. So Devin, I appreciate you, brother. I hope you have a great night. And again, you're gonna have a lot of karma going forward for doing something like that. So I appreciate you so much, brother. That being said, as always, we appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for being a part of the Scoop family. Thank you guys so much for being a part of the show. A lot of sports going on tonight, so thank you. If you guys enjoy this content, please leave us a like, click subscribe, also click that little alert bell. Again, thank you guys for all you guys do. I appreciate all you guys. It's a huge show because you guys made it one. So again, thank you. Shout out where you guys are watching from. Shout out who you guys are watching with. Again, we appreciate all you guys do for us. Again, what a great week. What a great weekend's coming up. Football's coming soon, guys. It's going to be amazing. Mothers, I hope you guys have a great Mother's Day this weekend. So thank you so much for all that you mothers do for our kids, for your sons, for everybody, your husbands. Hope you guys have a great Mother's Day weekend. We'll be back in tomorrow, 7 p.m. Appreciate you guys. Maybe go 6:30. So check our alerts because of the Cavs game. But we appreciate you guys so very much. That being said, thank you so much, Buckeye Nation, and thank you, Scoop family. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow night. You guys have a great night. Go Bucks.